Hello and welcome to the treatment room. Hi again, Andy.
All right, Phil, how are you?
I'm good, mate. Thank you. Now, on this podcast, we're going to talk about what it's like to be part of the customer service industry, which I know to some clinical therapy business owners, they're going to be scratching their head already thinking, but we're not.
This is one I always get stick for.
Yeah, quite right too.
Yeah,
Quite right too. Surely we're clinicians. We're not in the customer service industry, are we?
Yeah, we are, and we are, and I think it's every time I talk about this is at any kind of presentation, I always feel like I get some of the old school therapists giving me the eyes or rolling eyes that you normally get when you have a disappointed parent. But
yeah, because we're part of a caring profession. We're not part of that filthy customer services industry, are we?
I think that's where it comes to, let me just go off on a tangent, which if you're a new listener, I apologize, but if you're an old listener, a regular listener, then you're very familiar with me going off on tangents and going on a bit of a...
It's worth listening to tangents. They're always fascinating, aren't they?
Of course.
They get us into all sorts of trouble and all sorts
100%,
of conversations.
yeah, 100%. So I came into the therapy world 20 years ago, physiotherapist, and
Surely not that long, Andy.
Unfortunately, Phil, I'd hair the lot, right?
Yeah, really?
I'm probably actually in better shape than I was 20 years ago, but anyway, I just had. So one of the things is, and most healthcare professionals come into it because we do care. I think generally we want to help, we want to support, we want to be somebody that, I remember going into university and, apart from being overwhelmed of going, I can't remember all of these origin insertions of these muscles, I generally got a buzz off understanding how we can support people on a journey and how to get people better. I've been very fortunate in my career. I've had a very good clinical career and I've worked with some fantastic people from all, and my career is quite well documented. We've had some high profiled athletes, but also I still buzz off watching, people's mum and dads after the hip replacement or, they're getting younger and, and I buzz watching people, and I think most healthcare practitioners get that still feeling when, we can generally improve and affect lives. And I think that's something which I've always loved our profession for that. And, the people coming into it, and it's something where I still buzz off watching, in our own business, the testimonials of people going, oh my God, I was here and now I'm here. And I think it's lovely that we can do that. Now, for me, that's only justified if we help people along that journey. And if we see, and where I see a lot of the journeys break down is that what we're not doing is we're not serving our customers well. Now, some assumptions here. Okay, that in the private therapy world, some big assumptions is going to be we're not great at asking people to come back because it costs them money. So they can't afford to come. So therefore, I'm not asking them to come back. So, you make a prejudged judgment on a customer to say, well, they really could do if they're in an elite world and 3 times a week. But what we will do is, we'll get them to come back once a fortnight. So is that good customer service? In the basis that, you've got a customer that's come to you, they want support, they want help, they want to be guided. Let's say they've got acute lower back pain. They're really concerned, they're really worried. There's a lot going on internally. And we go, you'll be right. Here's some exercises, see in 2 weeks. Okay.
Yeah.
They don't know if they're doing them right. They don't know if they're, if what they're feeling is increasing the pain. They don't know if that's muscles they've never used before. And they've got all these questions running through in their heads. And it would be lovely if they were seeing you in 2 days to kind of go, right, this is what's happened in the last couple of days. And you go, yeah, that's cool. This is why, this is this, this is this. Oh, okay. More reassured. So you might want to, so, and unfortunately, we don't always see that. We don't always see that us looking from a customer perspective. We look at the clinical evidence to say they should be able to, those exercises, if they do those exercises well over the next 2 weeks, will definitely give them this outcome. Perfect.
So do we think that may have its origins in the nature of the reality that a number of clinicians will have come through an NHS route, and because we know that there's massive demand within the NHS, that there's two things strike me as the non-clinician in this conversation. One is demand exceeds the ability to supply. So in other words, we have to ration the number of appointments that people can come to. And then the second bit for me is because it's a medical, a clinical environment, certainly in an NHS setting, there's a kind of a doctor or a clinician knows best point of view. So there's almost like a subservient relationship between the patient and the expert. Whereas on the high street, in our businesses, actually, if we translate that relationship into the high street, then we get a mismatch of expectation between the patient that becomes a customer and the clinician that is the business owner or is working within a business that needs to generate revenue to survive.
There's some really points. I think there is. We've certainly been exposed to people from an NHS background that those behaviours that have been installed in it have certainly passed over into the business. So I think that's a valid comment. That
we're not saying they're bad, are we? So
100%
my proposition isn't that makes them bad. It is that's the environment, the culture, the expectation of the business, business of
what
the
they're
NHS
familiar with. Look, and I think this is going to come back to simple things. Okay, humans, which we all are, even the patient and the customer, okay, we do things that are familiar to us. So if that's how you've always processed a customer, and if that's been your process for a long time, then that's certainly, it's familiar for you to have the same process within a private sector. And we've seen that in, with people that have made the transition. We've had those conversations. They don't make particularly very good businesses personally, because customers aren't being well looked after. But anyway, that is a model. But I also think that that part of the issue is there is lots of evidence clinically that says patients don't need to be seen on a regular basis, because if they can go away and do these exercises, okay, they will get better on their own. Okay, lots of evidence, lots of strong stuff. And there's lots of, in inverted commas, social media gurus who are pronouncing that out, okay, which I agree with, because there's evidence there to show it. The mismatch, I think, is we fail, and again, I'm assuming, so again, challenge me, listeners. On occasions, we fail to ask the customer, what is it that you want? Where are you in this journey? What is it that actually you want me to support you with? And if they are anxious, they are nervous, there's a lot going on in their world, and you explain that, well, if we see you, in shorter bursts, so we see you every couple of days, is that what you want? Will that help you on your journey to become better? Or if somebody's mega confident, I know what I'm doing, right, Sam, I'll see you in 2 weeks. So, what I call this is expectation matching. On the basis being is, do we assume that every customer who's got lower back pain wants the same treatment pathway? Do we assume that the exercises for flexion related lower back pain or extension related back, we're going to give them the same thing because the pain's in the same place, or they've got similar symptoms to Barbara that come in? We're going to hopefully we're tailoring our rehabilitation, and we should be tailoring our customer service to each and every person that comes in. And we should have our business set up that we can do that we can adapt, and we can be, we talk an awful lot around in communication. We've got to be chameleons, haven't we? So we've got to be able to adapt our own communication, because a bit like what you were saying, we can't be that I'm the gaffer, I'm the healthcare professional, just do as I told and you're going to be all right. At the end of the day, for me, every consultation is also a negotiation where we go, right, what are you looking for and how quickly are you going to get there? And if any of the listeners have ever had an athlete in, then who's got a race on Saturday, it's always a negotiation. Okay. So, I think it's really important that what we seek to understand is, what does a customer expect from us as a business? And then how do we align that and match that? And when we talk around customer or expectation matching, our last podcast, we talked about marketing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, and we then talked in our last podcast about marketing and what is it we sell. And what we find in the therapy world is actually there is still there can be a vast difference between how different practices treat their patients. Okay. Some may be more hands-on, so that the patient's coming in, if it is to get some mobilization, some manipulation. Some are very hands-off, so they're just exercises, don't do any soft tissue work. Some may be a combination of both, which is where I sit in my world. I'm a little bit of this, but rehabilitation based, but still we still do manual therapy. And there's no right or wrong. Like you've said, everyone's doing it for the right intentions and the right reasons based on their own values and beliefs of how to be a good healthcare practitioner. But a customer might have a preference.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you've got to be quite clear how you deliver your service and internally, because that then feeds your marketing, because that's the kind of what you should be pushing out. Because we've all had that level of disappointment, isn't it, when you go and expect one thing and you get another.
Absolutely. And I think we've talked about this before, haven't we? But you'll have listeners for sure, and I know you have, Andy, within your businesses. You talked about the athlete wanting to compete at the weekend. You'll have people who are regulars because of the nature of the sport or the activity or the work that they perform, which means they need some recovery and some expert support on a regular basis. There'll be others who are occasional visitors. And I suppose what the link I'm trying to make here is certainly the background and specialism I've got is working with people to help them work through change, and organizations work through change. And I suppose my kind of related analogy is that come January, lots of people join the gym because they decide they want to lose half a stone and get fit. But by the end of January, they've given up, and that's the end of the day. To some extent, the recovery journey is a change journey. So I think what I'm articulating, what I'm hearing you talking about, is the fact that actually part of the therapist's role is actually to be working alongside the individual. So as well as the technical expertise and the exercise that we might be giving to a client to help them recover, there's a parallel a conversation going on that's actually coaching them through a mindset and behavior change that actually encourages them to want to do the exercises to enable them to get fit, to achieve a bigger goal. And then that maybe is the difference between, the expectation matching and the likelihood of me recommending a particular clinician or a business to a friend or a colleague, because actually we've got that balance right. The motivation for the individual to want to succeed and to recover is part of that customer experience. Massively.
And so again, another kind of controversial comment that I often relate to, and when I've always said in the therapy world, especially in the kind of musculoskeletal therapy world where I kind of have sat for a long period of time, a clinician does three things: it educates, it facilitates, and it coaches. So, you know, the great things of working with humans, despite all the challenges that people have, is that we're like self-healing machines, aren't we? Right? You know, we heal ourselves.
Takes a bit longer as you get older, in my experience.
Oh, flipping heck, if with me more surgeries booked, but certainly, you know. So part of our responsibility, I'll see, and there's, like we said, is everyone to do it, but for me is to educate a client, a customer, a patient on what the journey is going to look like based on our clinical evidence. And I think it's fair to say now there's no reason why any clinician cannot be up to date with clinical evidence. There's so much, you know, it's not the days where I had to go to a library and actually go and find a journal in a library. Now everything's online, or someone's made an infographic of it.
Yeah.
And then it's around facilitating that journey. So what's best for the client? What do they want? And what's best for them? And then having that discussion, and then understanding how long is that going to take and what does that look like? You know, and having your business set up, can you provide all of those services? So if you know that they need a rehabilitation at some end and they need to do some strength work, but you don't have the facilities, where are you going to send them? Yeah. Who's going to do that bit? If you have it on site, fantastic. If you don't have it, where are you going to send them? Who are they going to send them to? You know, because you can't just turn around and go, right now, I've done my bit. You need to go and do some proper strength training. See you later. Because that's like being left, you know, oh, I've just ordered a product, but you've got to go and pick it up from you. You've just ordered a shed from Wales. Brilliant.
Yeah, let's not mention the sheds.
You know, that's sorry for anything. But you have to go and pick it up now. Well, you never told me that when I started, did you? Yeah. You know, so, you know, I think it's really important that our job is to facilitate a client along this pathway to help them achieve their outcome. And I'll always argue that's the difference between a good therapist and a great one, that they get that. And then they can coach them each step to do it. You know, because it is, you know, for a lot of people, if you are injured and you're in pain, it's quite an emotional journey to go along. You know, so, and we're all, you know, we're all emotional at some level, angry, sad, whatever. So it's important for you to help them understand that journey along the way. And I generally think that if you think of it like that, then you are serving a customer. So you're in the customer service industry. You're helping facilitate their journey. You know, Andy Byrne, who I once listened to at a great physio up in the owner of True Physio, and he was listening to him at a presentation, and he'd used the story brand analogy to help his presentation, to say that, you know, let the patient, let the customer be the hero of their own journey, and you just be the guide. And I thought it was a lovely way to kind of analyze. And then, so when we look at your business, how are you guiding them through? You know, how are you at step by step? How easy is it to make an appointment with you? Yeah. You know, how easy is it when they ring your client, you know, or email your business? Who's doing that bit? How good are they at helping them find the right practitioner, even in your own business, or are your business right and suitable for them? You know, Phil, we've said stories before. We've had people come in with a ruptured Achilles into clinic. Or I think I've hurt me tendon. So bit of a delay there. Sorry about that, folks and listeners.
I think we might need to, I think we might have lost a few seconds. So
what I was saying was that, you know, if you know, we've had people with a ruptured tendon, Achilles tendon, come into clinic. Okay, thinking, I think I've done something to my Achilles. You have a quick look, right? Of which you're kind of turning them around very quickly and going, you need to go to hospital. So what we've now done is we've set a process up where if someone says they've got Achilles, you know, we ask them the question. Is it still intact? Should you actually be coming in? Yeah, I think so. I can walk. Right, fine, come in. Whereas, you know, and we've actually trained some of our staff to understand, to teach them how to do what they call a pinch test or a Thompson test, to say, right, cool, you're all right, it's still intact, because we've had a few of them walk in. So for me, the point is that you understand at each touch point, a client, a customer, how is that for them? How do you make that the best it can be? Knowing that for some people, it couldn't be emotional. What is even when they turn up in clinic, how are they welcomed? Puts them in such a good place or a bad place, doesn't it?
It brings me on to the other element that I know we're going to talk about in this podcast, and that if I just use your Achilles example, is giving non-clinicians the knowledge to be able to be helpful in that customer pathway, and also giving the clinicians the skills and confidence actually to be talking about other pathways, other options, other facilities, products, services that are available, ideally within your own clinical environment, but it may be, the clinic up the road, in terms of referral processes, because where people are referring, they've got confidence, and actually that's also part of the customer journey. So do you want to say a bit more about the importance of the office manager, the receptionist, the clinician in that pathway, in that journey, that customer journey?
But I think everyone's got to be aligned with it, and it's the old analogy, you've all got to be singing off the same hymn sheet. So, very frequently will somebody, let's stay on the Achilles scenario, you've got a painful Achilles, somebody will have, when they're painful Achilles, will ring an office. Okay.
Yeah.
Now, the majority of clinics, we would say, will have either administrators or would have non-clinical staff of some level answering the phone.
Yeah.
And even, you'd argue, the customer, the patient will know that, but they will still tell them exactly, oh, hi, I just need to make an appointment because, every time I walk, I've got this pain in my back of my leg and it's stopping me from running. And they'll start telling them some clinical stuff. Okay. So the administrator has to be almost comfortable, familiar with asking relevant and good questions, which often is documented in their kind of, what I know in ours, we everything's documented. So when a clinician sees them for the first time, there's been a little bit of reference. So they've got to be comfortable understanding, like you've said, is the pathway right? Because then also what they might say is, well, what's going to happen when I arrive? So they're actually asking for an expectation of what am I going to get when I turn up? What am I getting for my 75 quid, basically? Yeah. So it's then down to the non-clinical staff, in most cases, to be able to tell that journey, to be able to explain very clearly what the therapist was going to be doing, so that when the patient arrives, they've got an expectation of what they're going to get. Yeah. And then all for the therapist, then all they've got to do is match what the administrator's already got. That only occurs, that fluidity only occurs if you've got a process. Yeah. Hence why we put together our 10-step framework.
Absolutely. And I was just thinking there, I mean, the other element of this is just thinking about, what's an elephant got to do with marketing? If you want to know that, listen to our earlier podcast. But if we understand in marketing persona terms, if we understand the individuals that we're actually targeting in the market, so rather than saying, anybody can come with anything, if we try and promote what we're doing in that way, then it's a bit like going into a sweet shop and saying, pick anything you like, because the choices are too great. Whereas if the clinic just up the road is actually very specific about who it's targeting, then that will be helpful, because it will generate more footfall. But from my point of view, it also helps us, because if we study the demand in terms of what the throughput of our customers, and we know that a large percentage of them present with shoulder injuries, then actually if we train our receptionists and our non-clinical staff as a priority on some of the basics of how to support, how to ask the right questions around shoulder injuries, because we know that that's a large demand on our clinic, then that will improve the customer journey. If we're trying to make all of our non-clinical staff give them 3 years worth of clinical education to enable them to answer any call that they might ever receive, then that's self-defeating. But actually, if we, a bit like pain management, if we kind of focus it in the right, if we focus that information and that advice and that support in the right area, then we're going to get maximum return. And I think that's what we're kind of saying in employee development terms, we're talking about in terms of supporting that customer journey. And I know that's something that you do within your environment, Andy.
Yeah, certainly. But I think it just allows, if everybody knows what they're doing, you work in big organizations. If you've got a team of people and everyone knows what they're doing and are comfortable having those conversations because they've been well versed, then it makes their life easier. There's nothing worse than having a conversation with somebody that you don't know anything about and you have to go, oh, I don't know, I'll get somebody else to come back to you.
Yeah.
So I think it makes everyone in the organization comfortable because they know what's expected of them. Everyone knows what's expected. Everyone knows the process. It makes a customer and a client happier, and it builds quicker rapport because they go, oh gosh, they know what they're talking about straight away. Even the admin knows what's the process of, like you've said, the treating the shoulder. And, we're not saying someone's going to go they're going to give you a diagnosis over the phone. But what we are saying is that there is steps and processes of which a rehabilitation, from an assessment to what they're going to do, that are pretty standard for every single person that comes into a business. So, and they can give those out. So I think it helps everything. It helps the whole service, doesn't it? Because the clients and the customers feel that the business knows what they're doing, so I can trust them. The team are all comfortable and confident of what they're delivering and how they're delivering it, so they can then have that communication. And as a business owner, if you've got those processes in place, it also allows you to be able to track data across time. So you can then look of going, okay, what element isn't working? And if you know what element's going to work in, like you were talking about pinpointing, if one part of the journey, because you've got a good documented journey, which is that 10-step process that we refer to, if you know this bit isn't, there's room for improvement, well, you can double down on just making that better. Whereas if you look at your stats at the end of the month and go, oh, we haven't had enough new customers in this month, but we don't know why, or, what we don't know is that you might have had 100 phone calls, but actually 99 of them, when they bang up, they don't trust them, and they've just run on somebody else. So you've only got one new customer, but you could have had 100. So your marketing's going well, but actually that element of going, well, the inquiry stage was rubbish because you got a new girl in or a new boy in to answer the phone, and they didn't know what they were talking about, so they lost trust there. So then the whole customer service part falls down, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And actually, on our next podcast, we're going to be talking exactly about that, aren't we? How to retain our customers and get loyal fans. So, Andy, in the meantime, I know we've got a webinar coming up on the 19th of September.
So you've got one on the 19th.
One on the 19th. Yeah.
When's
7
the next
o'clock.
one? When's the next one after that?
I knew you were going to ask me that, mate. We didn't rehearse that, did we?
Sorry, proper. I thought you'd have.
10th of October. Thanks for hanging.
It's all right. Well, yeah. all of the dates we've got below anyway. It was just I knew there was there's a series that we're doing over the next couple of months up to Christmas. So
all focusing on the 10-step journey and a brilliant package that we've put together now that enables people to to download a feast of resources and get access to some great content. So if you're interested in finding out a bit more about that, then take a look at our website, elevateyourclinic.com. Eventbrite is the place to go to find out more about the webinar series, and there's also an ebook, Andy.
Yeah, Phil. So all of those things. So be checking out our socials as well, because we'll be posting all of those. If you're already on our database, then newsletters will be coming out with all of the relevant links. If not, then obviously always sign up for our newsletter. So you can sign up for the info@elevateyourclinic.com or through the website, like Phil said, www.elevateyourclinic.com. So make sure you don't miss out.
So until next time, Andy.
Thank you as always, and feel free to comment if there's anything that we can add in, then we'd love to hear from you. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.